This is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, God's name is worthy to be praised. I'm Pastor W. Lonnie Herndon, and I want you to get ready for morning meditations as one of our ministers of the gospel shares a word for you today. Listen and be blessed.
Greetings. Welcome to Compassion's Morning Meditations, and my name is Phaedra Anderson. Today I will be reading from Isaiah 26:3, which reads, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." When I started to read the text, it made me remember this old Christian hymn that was written by this remarkable missionary by the name of Louisa Stead. She's long gone on to be with the Lord, but her words and her song will live forever. It's a song that has been sung all across the nation. Christians around the world, they know this song. Depending on your age, your great-great-grandmother has heard this song. Your great-grandmother, your grandmother, and you may have even been blessed by this song. But it's a very popular Christian hymn, and it doesn't matter whatever your age is. If you're a babe in Christ, if you're a seasoned saint, I do encourage everyone to go to YouTube right after this morning's meditation. Somebody say after. Yes, right after this morning's meditation, and I encourage you to go to YouTube and listen to this song. I do believe that it will be a blessing to your life on today. But the song was written back in 1882, and one may ask, how can a song written back in the 1800s be relevant to us this day? But when a song is birthed out of tragedy and pain, and when a song continuously points people to Jesus, it will always have the power to transcend time. It will always be relevant, and that's why I love an old Christian hymn. Yes, HYMN, because an old Christian hymn will always point people to him. Yeah, those old Christian hymns, they didn't point people to man. They didn't point people to cars, to the moon and the stars, but they always pointed people to Jesus. They always pointed people to the cross. They always pointed people to Calvary and to the blood. An old Christian hymn. Yeah, they pointed people to him, and that's exactly what this song did, and that's why it had the power to transcend time. I believe many sung this song, but we didn't fully understand it because many didn't know what motivated the writer to write the song. Although many was blessed by it, we didn't know the history behind the lyrics of the song. But in my reading, this is what I learned. Mrs. Stead and her husband, they traveled to Long Island, New York for a vacation with their 4-year-old daughter, and they were out having a picnic. And during that time, they heard someone screaming, "Help me." And Mr. Stead saw someone in a body of water, and they were drowning. And it was this boy in the water, and he was drowning with his hands up saying, "Help me." So Mr. Stead ran, and he jumped into the water with an attempt to save the little boy. But like so many do when they are drowning, they pull their rescuer down. And Mr. Stead was pulled down, and he and the boy both drowned and died. So Mrs. Stead is standing there with her 4-year-old daughter watching her husband drown, watching her husband struggle and die right before her very eyes. And it was out of that tragedy that this song was birthed. "'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus." And the rest of it goes, "'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. And how many of you have heard that song? You've heard that song, depending on your age. You've sung that song, and you've even been inspired and blessed by that song. But now that we know the heart and the spirit behind the song, we can have a better appreciation when we hear the lyrics. "'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus." And the song brings us right into the text, because despite her tragic situation, and we all know what tragic situations are, right? We have them in our homes, in our families, in our communities. We have them in our schools, in our societies, and we see them daily on the news. Tragedy. Tragedy is all around us. Tragedies that has caused us to not want to get out of bed. Tragedy that has caused us to not want to look at the news. Tragedies that has caused us to not want to live another day. But in spite of Mrs. Stead's desperate situation, in spite of Mrs. Stead's untimely, unfortunate loss, in spite of Mrs. Stead's many questions that I do believe that she had for God, she made a decision to still depend on God. She made a decision to still trust that God will bring her through. She made a decision to die to herself, to die to her emotions about what was happening around her, so that she could live in the peace of God and in the power of God that was within her. I'm going to repeat that one more time, because someone needs to make a decision. She made a decision to die to the emotions about what was happening around her, so that she could live in the peace of God and in the power of God that was within her. And that peace, beloved, is a peace that surpasses all understanding. Philippians 4:7. It was the peace of God that God had ordained and disposed of and given freely to his people in Isaiah 26:12. A peace that Jesus left behind intentionally for you and I, John 14:27. And beloved, I just stopped by to tell you today that peace is still available to you. The peace that the text is referring to in Isaiah 26:3 is still available to you. For it reads, "You will keep in perfect peace." So in order for us to get to that peace, because that is the question here, how do we stand in that peace? How do we rest in that peace? How do we live in that peace that is able to sustain us in any situation? Well, first we must have an understanding of who the peace giver is. Who keeps that peace? Who is the distributor of this perfect peace? Because if we don't know that, that's when we'll start to try to find it in other things. We'll start trying to attach ourselves to a perverted peace, a wicked peace, to a peace that's found in lighting incense and burning sage, to a peace that's found in popping pills and shooting drugs, to an evil peace, to a temporary peace, to a fleeting peace. And that, beloved, is not the peace of God, because this peace, this perfect peace, this shalom, this double portion, this absolute peace can only be found in the true and living God. John 14:27. So first, we have to have an understanding of who the peace giver is. And secondly, it says he will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed on you. Another version says those whose minds are steadfast. And as we can see, Mrs. Stead had a steadfast mind. Her mind was focused on Jesus. Her mind was focused on the peace giver. Her mind was committed and set on her Savior, her friend, her God, and not on her circumstances. And that peace, beloved, is still available to you. So one, we have to be mindful and always remember who is the giver of this peace, who is the peacekeeper. And two, we have to have a mind that is committed and focused on Jesus. And lastly, to gain access to this peace, we have to trust in God. And what does it mean to trust in God? It means to have hope. It means to have a confidence. It means to have an expectation that God is going to do what he said that he would do. Somebody say that with me. God is going to do what he said that he would do. Somebody put it in the chat. God is going to do what he said that he would do, which is to keep us in a perfect peace. But beloved, we have to do our part. We have to do our part in order for us to experience, to enjoy, to live in this perfect peace, which means that we have to keep our minds stayed on Jesus, and we have to trust him at his word. And in my closing, I'll just leave you with another stanza of the song, which says, Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him, how I proved him over and over. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust him more. Oh, for grace to trust him more. Somebody say that with me. Lord, just give me grace to trust you more. Thank you for tuning in to Compassion's Morning Meditations, and we are here every day at 7 a.m. Be blessed.